Going to call over the town of Lisbon Plan Commission meeting at the town of Lisbon Town Hall on Thursday, November 12th, 2020 at 6:32 p.m.
Joe Wisterman.
Here.
Becky Polketter, absent excused. Ed Nelson.
Here.
Mark Meyer.
Here.
Mr. Zoom. Okay. Jane Staver, present. Brian Olfen, absent excused. Chad Samansky.
Present.
Rachel Holloway.
Present.
Mike Van Clunen.
Present.
Let's see who else is here. Kathy Nicholas.
Here.
I believe that's it.
Thank you, Jane. Item 3 is comments from citizens present. Anybody wish to make any comments? All right, item 4 is the minutes. Discussion and approval of the discussion and action on the minutes of the October 8th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
I asked to move that to the next meeting.
We'll move that to the next meeting. Item 5 is the public hearing. Request for conditional use permit for a contractor's yard in the B3 zoning district by applicant Tom Holler for property located at West 220 North 6437 Town Line Road, Lisbon, Wisconsin 53089. Tax the LSBT 0240.992.002. We have the public hearing then tonight. For this, does anyone wish to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone here for this public hearing other than the applicant? Yes, if you wish to speak tonight, okay. So nobody wishes to speak for the public hearing? All right, close the public hearing then. Quickest public hearings ever. All right, item 6 is new business. Discussion and possible action on the following items. We have the Hillside Ridge subdivision sign permit. Rachel.
Pardon me, I have to go through the slide to get to the right item. Edward Stein. This is the Newman Homes developing a Hillside Ridge subdivision. Can you guys hear me okay?
Your mic on?
Testing, this
No,
on?
press the button.
No.
You gotta move it close to you too. Mark, can you hear?
Yes.
It's okay? All right, so Hillside Ridge Newman Homes is proposing a subdivision sign at the entrance to their subdivision that's currently under construction. And this is right at the entrance, this is the northwest corner of Beverly Lane, where it meets Hillside Road. It's not, if you recall, there's a boulevard island at this location, but the sign is not proposed within that island. It's actually up to the north on an outlet. It'll be off to the side of the road as proposed. That's the monument sign. It's 48 square feet and 4 feet tall. It would be lit with 2 3-watt lights that would be shielded, and the applicant has indicated that they would or could be on timers because the ordinance does limit lighting between the hours of 9 p.m. and sunrise for this type of sign. And staff reviewed this under the new Section 5 sign code that the town has recently adopted. Wondering why the memo also references other sign code because they started reviewing this under the you're right in the midst of changing your sign code because you still have the other ones on the books from chapter 13, some of the provisions in chapter 11. But Section 5 is just about to be adopted to repeal those and replace them with sign. So anyway, we reviewed it according to all the sign rules just to cover the bases and the sign complies with all the standards. And here you can see a picture of it on the slide. This shows what they're proposing. The type of sign here with a brick base with cut stone. It would be a couple feet thick. It would be landscaped around it with junipers and tall grasses. And that also meets the ordinance standards, which require 5 feet of landscaping all the way around the sign. Here you can see sort of an aerial view of it showing other landscaping on the south lot, like the location of the sign at the corner of the staff's recommendation is to approve this if you're in support tonight.
Questions from the board? Chad?
I just want to make sure the lighting is directional, because there is a residence kind of kitty corner across the street, building a home. I think they said 2 3-watt lights, is that correct?
The applicant is here.
Sure, I can speak to that.
You state
Ryan-
your name. Okay.
Yeah, Ryan Frisch with Human Developments. So the 3 fixtures would be directly on the front of the sign.
Okay.
They're typically photo eye. And then this timer feature, I did confirm this with our electrician. It can override the photo eye, so, to meet the ordinances, the light would automatically come on once it starts getting dark, and then, the timer can shut it off from 9 PM until sometime in the afternoon.
Oh, I have. Thank you.
Ryan, and just about what Chad was just asking, I assume like bullet eye type scenarios.
Correct.
It'll be just on the stone fascia, correct? It's not gonna, be so bouncing up into space, so to speak, or,
We are talking about a 3-watt bulb, just so. everybody
yeah,
knows.
so,
3-watt.
Two of them, but the
Correct.
car headlight is 55.
yeah,
Yep, there's 3 LEDs just on the stone and the actual face.
that's perfect.
Just want to make sure everybody puts that in perspective.
Yeah, I did have, there is an island, because there's one entrance into the subdivision, there's an island which you're currently under construction. So the sign is not gonna go in the middle of that island, it's gonna be over to the side.
Correct, it will be, within an outlet, along the vision easement there. When we were looking through the code, there are different requirements to have a sign within the island, and, we thought we'd get a bigger and grander sign, placing it in this outlet, so.
Okay, so it's gonna go to the north of the entrance, basically, then.
Correct,
Oh.
correct.
Okay, no further questions.
No, I have no question.
Mark,
Nothing.
anything else from staff? Is there a motion on this item?
I'll move, Mr. Chairman. Now, I'm just saying Hillside Road subdivision sign permit, correct, under new
Yeah.
business? Okay. I would move that the Hillside Ridge subdivision sign permit be approved as noted with planner comments also noted.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Chad. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Item
you.
B is the Beacon Hills subdivision sign permit.
So for Beacon Hills, this sign is actually in the town right of way. It's in the boulevard itself, or in the island. Cheryl came to us and asked, as we are considered the property owner, if we would be willing to allow that subdivision to change the old wood sign that's been there since the 70s to a rock, as you can see. And it does fit in our requirements. It's a 72 by 48 foot maximum allowed sign area, and the sign is 60 feet. They both comply. The placement of the sign on the island is 16 foot back from the road edge on the front and 8 feet from the side. The minimum setback is 10 feet from the front and 3 feet from the side, so they comply. There's no budget impact. The DPW staff will use their current staff time to remove the sign that's in place, since it's on town right of way, and the sign will be placed by the applicants, by Paul Butler of Bauer Sign Company. So if you so choose, the motion is in the requested action.
Is there any issue we have as far as, like, let's say the sign were to get hit or anything?
It's pretty far back in the, it's not sitting real close to the major road, and it is set back even farther than our setback needs from the road edge of the island.
I mean, as far as like replacement or anything, that would still be on
That's still their responsibility, yes.
I mean, I'm sure anything that hits it is gonna lose. It's pretty sturdy.
There's not only the placement of the sign, our code specifically states that the owner of the property has to approve the sign to be placed, and we are the town is the owner of the land, so we need that in the motion as well.
Got anything?
No.
Ed,
No.
Jane,
No,
Mark?
No.
All right, so in the motion, we need to address the allowing it to be replaced. Correct?
And the
then-
consent to place the new sign in the entrance island. It's on the requested action.
Does that have to go to the board also then? Or is it okay here?
I believe it's okay here. 'Cause it's a regular process.
I would make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 5-0. Item C is the Tom Howard Nursery conditional use permit, site plan and plan of operation.
Can we do this in 6 minutes too?
5-0. Let's go for 3. 5-0. Our fingers crossed.
How do you want to start though?
What?
So, I'd like to just give a brief overview of the proposal. I usually do, we talk about the operation, applicants obviously here, you can fill in gaps or add information. But also, and I can touch on the highlights of the staff review comments for general requirements of the zoning code, for site plans of operation, and also for conditional use standards for contractors' yards, since that is a component of the request. So Tom Auer is here tonight as the Groundcracker LLC is the company name, proposing the landscape contracting business, snowplow operation, and snowplow, the retail greenhouse nursery on the site on Town Line Road, County Highway F, right near Mill Road and the railroad track. Adjacent to this, and I'll show a map in just a moment, but there's residential to the north is one lot zone county R2. Railroad tracks to the south, I just mentioned, that's zone M2 general industrial. Lands to the west are zone M2 general industrial, this is the site of a mobile home park, residential. And to the east is commercial lands and some ag and rural residential. That's across the road in Menominee Falls. Existing zoning, if you recall, you saw, he was here for a rezoning in August, which you approved, and then the town board subsequently approved to rezone the site to B3, general business. So that's what we reviewed this proposal under is the B3 zoning, even though that is still making its way through the county approval process. We expect to see that soon. Recommended land use here is commercial and office park in your long range plan, as well as some secondary environmental corridor up in the very north end, because there's a creek that runs through the site. Owned by McLaughlin Trust currently, the site is 3.2 acres, or 3.5 if you measure from the base setback line. There's some jogs in the right of way here, you'll see in a minute, but that gives you a sense of the size of it. This parcel being separated from, if you recall, there are 2 parcels out there that are physically separated, but they share the same tax key. But he's already got a new tax key assigned, which will kick in the beginning of 2021, so that will separate these parcels. And because of that, there's no need for a certified survey map. We had initially thought he might do one, but no longer necessary. So the operations that he's proposing are basically permitted uses in the B3 district. We discussed that when the rezoning was before you, if you recall, that those generally would fit with other permitted uses in that district. So that's how I reviewed this site plan. Contractor's yard is a conditional use within the B3 zoning district, so that part of the site at least would be require conditional use approval. And the site plan of operation would require approval also by Waukesha County because there is at least half of the site is under shoreline zoning. So that's the overview there. Sorry, the maps are a little on board here. You can see the 2 parcels. This is a more zoomed out area along town line. You see the purple industrial zoning nearby. This is zoomed in more closer to the site. You can see the aerial, kind of what's there now. The pole barn in the south. This has been used, I guess, for RV storage of some kind. Barn up in the north end, that's the former Shooters Tavern. And there's a residential unit right in the middle of the site, which is a 3-unit rental property. Aerial here, we talked about zoning and comprehensive plan. The other highlights to note, okay, so review comments. The application is mostly complete, but tonight is certainly for the public hearing. We're not sure if action is quite, if it's ready for action yet tonight, because there is another component yet, the erosion control plan. He's not proposing a great deal of land disturbance on site, but there is some that would be involved in this, and over the course of reviewing, we confirmed with the town engineer that this would need a major grading permit, so he still has to submit that piece of it. We'd have to have that reviewed as with a public hearing, so that's anticipated for December. And then any other additional information tonight that you might request that you think should be part of the site plan. There's also a couple of questions to clarify with you as far as if it's, things are adequate, because the zoning code does give you discretion on certain things like the amount of landscaping. So that's identified in the staff report. So tonight, if you give feedback to the applicant, the idea is he can finalize his plans, submit them next week to get back on the agenda in December for final approval. The bulk standards, that's most everything on site would meet the ordinance standards for location, with the exception of a seasonal shade structure that's proposed on site. You'll see this in a moment on the site plan. It doesn't meet the setback, which would be 50 feet from the town line road. I think something would need to be adjusted there. You can work through that on the plan. There is a 75-foot setback from the drainage way in the north end, and he's complying with that with the plan. The triplex or 3-unit rental building does not meet current setbacks. So if that building were to be modified or rebuilt in the future, which is not proposed currently, but would be a future idea, then it would have to be brought into compliance with code, but that's not an issue for the current proposal. The use is not proposed to change in that building at this time. As far as general provisions of the zoning code, the staff report touches on some of the key issues. I believe our outdoor storage has to be screened and landscaped per plan commission's satisfaction. So at least under those site plan of operation standards, you have to advise tonight on if you think it's adequately screened for that purpose. Same with lighting, it should be put in beams to not impact residential or people using the road. He's got some details on lighting, a lot of details on lighting in the packet and how that would be utilized on site. Landscaping there, I mentioned you have discretion, and some plantings would be placed in the right of way. So I just point that out because that is part of the layout. The applicant is comfortable with that there would be some risk, but
That's not our right of way.
correct, county. So I just want you to be aware that that's part of it, and if you have comments on that, as well as of course the amount of placement of landscaping. I advise that he shows no storage areas on the plan. I think that's generally recommended just to make sure that it would function how you want to use the site. And he did develop the plan based on the addendum A design standards that are attached to chapter 12. So that's why you see on the site plan buffer areas identified and why you should be monitoring landscaping. He does also proposing a sign permit, which is not in this packet at this time, but as we're reviewing, he made me aware that he is ready for a sign permit application, so that will be coming soon as well, and you'll see that in December. So it'll be a full package. A couple other things to hit on: the parking code. This is, as you see with a lot of site plans, the ordinance would require more parking than is proposed. He's proposing 22 stalls here, and 71 would be required under code, but the town does have some flexibility, and because of the conditional use, you have to determine if you think that's adequate. Doesn't seem adequate, but I think he could clarify what the peak traffic would be on site. That's one question I have, and I think I noted in the staff memo a little more information would be warranted there. I just wasn't able to get that in time for the for my deadline to get the memo on. 2 access drives. Let me just look to a map here. Okay. There are currently 2 driveway accesses you can see here in the aerial photo that connect to the mobile home park to the west. Those would be severed as part of the site plan. There'd be fencing along that perimeter and landscaping. So I want to point that out, that had been discussed at one point. That would be a change to access, but he would be using the same existing driveway access off of Town Line Road and just One other question for the plan commission tonight to call out is lot surfacing. The ordinance does require hard surface paving for parking lots and circulation areas. He is requesting that he could delay the paving of the southern area. So most of the site would be paved, repaved with asphalt coming into the driveway. All the parking lots for customer parking would be paved. Let me get down to the site plan here. You can kind of see the north end. I had to divide this into a few slides so you can see the whole site. Then the south end would be that contractor's yard, that's currently gravel, so that's something where I'd be asking if the plan commission is finding that acceptable, or if you would want it to be hard paved at this time, or by some other timeline. Then I mentioned the major grading permit. As far as conditional use standards, the only other thing to point out, so we did review this for potential or noise impacts, visual impacts to neighboring properties from the road, traffic impacts. I think peak traffic is one question I would like to see addressed here. The site does have sewer service for the barn in the north and the 3-unit rental property. The pole barn in the south is not currently connected to sewer, is my understanding, but he is interested in potentially connecting in the future. And also, if water service could be made available, he's indicated interest in that. But it sounds like that's not required for your operation at this time, correct? I think there are special setbacks in the ordinance for the standards for a contractor's yard, that it has to be 100 feet away from property that's zoned residential, 50 feet away from property that has other zoning. I believe it's either 48 to 50 feet. It seems very close. It's an existing building, so he's not proposing to modify that building in the exterior, so he's just working with what's there. I just want to point that out, that it's very close to meeting the standards. If you were to build new, that would be the setback. And it is the mobile homes themselves. The property to the west is has a large area that's permanently protected green space. I guess it was a reclaimed septic field. And so the mobile homes now, the closest one is about 266 feet away from that pole barn building. So that's well beyond the minimum of 100 feet that code was required. So even though it's zoned industrial, it is residential. So I looked at it against those standards, and I think it certainly meets that standard. And if you can consider the permanent open space, that just would mitigate potential impacts to neighbors. Planting screening is required at least 10 feet high. Also with plan commission discretion on that, so that's something code states. And it's got a lot of evergreens proposed all around the perimeter of the site, as you can see, so that's substantial. I believe it would be 10 feet high. We clarify at what point they would be that high, but that would be the proposal. Also vehicle and equipment storage, so that's something that would be primarily in the south end of the site in the contractor's yard. The proposal, just to be clear, would have some, I believe it's 5 company trucks, about 7 company trailers, is what he's indicated. So that's what's currently proposed, as well as indoor storage for RVs. He's proposing to continue that use for some time as like an income stream. So that would be sort of ancillary or accessory to the operation he's running, but that's a piece here. So it's a fairly complicated operation as compared to what we're used to seeing, I think. And because of the conditional use, I just note I think you have discretion to set a limit on the amount of equipment that's stored there if that were a concern. The reason it might be a concern would be potentially because of lot size. That's the one technical issue we ran into at the end of reviewing this. I think because he's been working on this proposal for several months, at least March is when he first came to us at the town. And he's been considering different options over the course of all these months about how much land to buy, what would be in the site plan or out of it. And I think we had addressed the minimum 5 acres per contractor's yard months ago, and I hadn't really thought about that since because we're focused on other aspects of the plan. Now it's, catching that, unfortunately, in the midst of reviewing this now. So staff's opinion is that he would need to obtain a variance to that standard in order for the conditional use to be granted. So if you're willing to grant the conditional use and you want to approve the site plan, our recommendation would be that you could do that subject to him obtaining a variance from Board of Appeals for the lot area size. If you think that's warranted and if you can make the case for that variance.
is it possible to purchase 5 acres or is it not?
No. Because it doesn't attach. I mean, there's, sure, my name is Tom, I'm with the ground crafter, and I'm the applicant. And originally, we were just going to be purchasing the north portion of this, where the shooter's barn is. As part of the deal, we were going to basically have a temporary contractor's yard on the south portion. Told not to build for the temporary contractor's yard. So they wanted, the engineers wanted us to go for the entire site at the same time, because in that span of time, we decided to buy it all at once. Okay, all being this 3.2 acres. There is an option that we are, talking about with McLaughlin's about purchasing a possible purchase of a parcel just north of the stream. That has nothing to do with what we need now. So the idea is that we need that southern portion, that 1.3 acres for a contractor's yard, or the deal will fail. And so getting the zoning and going through the initial meeting here, and getting some positive feedback from the board regarding that this site was suitable for a small contractor's yard, and the nursery on the north portion, of course, is why we're here now. So Rachel brought up the fact that this might be, a stick in the mud just a couple of days ago. So this whole time, having dealt with the planners, we were all under the impression that this was an adequate site for the contractor. So it's my understanding that there was a contractor's yard, just up the street. I think Kelly's owned it and somebody else purchased it. There was a variance given to an acre contractor's yard just recently, was there not?
Yeah, Spangler.
They got the zoning board?
So that's obviously, believe me, I was cringing this whole past week, very worried. A ton of money and time has been spent getting to this point, and all of a sudden, wow, we really do have to abide by that 5 acres. So that's a humongous problem, unless we can get the variance.
And we can't, this board doesn't grant.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I understand.
And you have to meet certain, you have to prove a hardship.
And did those other people prove a hardship?
They had to, because it was gotten.
I wasn't at that meeting, but that's my understanding.
And I
Yeah,
don't know.
they have been trained now, so they know what they can and can't do, and they're good at it now.
So I don't know.
Just so you know.
Yeah, I don't know what. a
We had some
hardship
things
is.
in the past that I may not have agreed on, but I'll tell you now, they will look at it, they have been trained, and they know what to and not to approve for hardships, so you know.
Okay.
It's not a stand.
No, I get that. Unfortunately, here we are several months down the road after tens of thousands of dollars have been spent and time, not having been told by the town planners that this site
That's
was.
not their sole responsibility.
I get
The
it.
code is there, and
Yeah.
you're experts to do that. So
Right, so in Josh presenting to you guys last time, he had recommended that this lot and this site was suitable for operation. Everybody knew from the slides, from everything that we had presented, that the entire lot was only 3.2 acres. So now we're here, and I'm not sure what to do. I do know that if the guys have been trained in hardships, I probably won't qualify. So I'm not sure where that leaves us.
I don't know if I'd be saying that.
Well, what can I say? I'm not gonna lie to anybody. I nor do I want to be qualified as somebody who's having hardships if I don't.
And I don't know if you do or don't. It's obviously not our.
If the hardship could be qualified as having gone all this way until this point, without this being brought up to either you guys, as the board, or anybody else, any other authority, then I would call that, a legitimate hardship.
Yeah, it cannot be financial nor self-imposed.
There you go.
staff did look at other aspects of the ordinance for what it's worth. I mean, we would put this in the memo. There are provisions that would allow reduction in lot area requirements for lot sites that are sewer. I don't know if that necessarily applies here. We discussed this with the attorney and I. Thought the variance would be the best way to go in this case. Another factor with the site is that it's not entirely used for contractors' yard. That's kind of one component of it at the south end of the site. Even the area that we're calling a contractor's yard is being used for storage, indoor storage, outdoor storage, employee parking for the retail operation in the north end. And then some piece of it is contractor's yard. So it's sort of a gray area where it's not really a clear cut line on.
Well, the other property you're talking about, I mean, does that put you over the 5 acres?
What is that parcel just north of the creek? Probably not, it's only an acre and a half. If that? Yeah, so that doesn't get us there.
And this is what?
3.2.
3.2.
3.2.
So that's 4.5.
But then the ordinance has a provision that you measure from the base setback line. I would read that to be, unless it's counting the actual right of way line as it is now, I think it's measured from the center line, you could argue that the lot is 3.5 acres. That might give you.
And then the other lot would
Next,
benefit from that also.
0.3 acres.
And then the other lot would, I'm sure, benefit from that 1/3 acre, whatever.
But I believe the other lot is separated, correct? It's not.
Correct.
That's right, it's not part of the current.
Because the
Yeah.
creek's there.
Right, so if it was,
Like me owning 2 acres on one side of the town and 3 acres on the other, saying I have 5 acres.
just about, yeah.
Unfortunately.
What's all gonna happen in this contract for sure?
On this back page, you guys will see, of this packet, you can see the equipment. This is our equipment. I put these multiplications here just to show you what's gonna be here, and, you know, ×5 means that we're not working, there's nobody in the field. That's everything that we have currently. We have a small mini excavator that's about, twice the size of that Bobcat. We are, I think I mentioned before, a really small operation in the scheme of things. That's the way I want to stay. When I say ×5, it's only because I wanted 5 crews. That's all I want. And I want to run the nursery. We don't fix any of our equipment on site. We're not banging hammers all day. The only thing that we actually do is we'll have bins just for quick hit materials. We will take our dump truck that you see here, go to Hallquist or Lannon and pick up aggregates and things to fill those bins. You know, we're on job sites for months at a time, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're spending most of our time on giant projects. That means that there's very little traffic to shop. All of those major materials, we're talking, you know, sometimes 50 tons, 100 tons of aggregates that we need for base material, et cetera, are actually brought straight from Lannon's dump, either in our pickup truck, our dump truck, or in one of Lannon's dump trucks. So we're quiet as a mouse when it comes to contractor's yard, and that's why I feel even terming this a contractor's yard is kind of a stretch. But I understand.
That's where I'm kind of.
Be more like a
Does this
nursery?
fit another type of classification?
I mean, Joe, looking at the renderings and everything, it looks more retail. I guess I would have to go through our code a little bit and see what would align with this.
I mean, it's next
But I
to,
see a lot more retail than.
there's nothing here that's gonna be longer than a railroad track that's above it here.
Right.
I just, we have a code and we have to stick to. it.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
what other,
Can we direct-
Joe, it was, so the definition of contractor's yard, because of the way that definition reads this way, I felt it had to be processed this way, even though it isn't, I feel like it's almost a accessory use on the whole site.
Right.
It just brings me as more retail.
Let's look into the verbiage of nursery ones. Would that fall under retail space?
My understanding was that, you know.
I was gonna
it
say we
has to
could
be termed
direct the planner
contractor's yard
to
in many cases
work with
because
them
you have
until,
large stockpiles of something or another.
I was gonna say,
That
we
you've
could
got men
table
on
till the
site
next
all day
meeting, let the
long
planner
doing
work
something
out,
within the
the
contractor's
best
yard. You know,
the
bending
classification
steel,
and bring it
whoever
back in
knows
December.
what
We're
we're
coming back in
doing.
December.
Right, I mean,
anyways.
all we do
Just
so
is
we're
that
not
side of
hashing it out
let's-
here.
Let's geared towards a nursery and see if we can fit the verbiage on
Right.
that side of it.
Kathy brings up a thought here. I mean, I would prefer not to negotiate this.
Okay.
It is really not our purview.
Yep.
Bring something to us we can make a decision on. Here.
I agree.
I mean, does anybody against this be? Do you think this is the best fit for this area? I guess is the number one thing. to look at. That's what he's looking at. Is this a good fit? Are we welcoming this here? How it looks. I mean, granted, the contract yard issue we haven't talked about, but I mean, this rendering is gorgeous.
Yeah,
And that's what we want to do. I mean, a lot of times we'll say, oh, I'm trying to oversell. You know, this is our business. This is what I want for Lisbon and the surrounding community. I want the upgraded aluminum fences. I want these cool, you know, stone veneer columns. I want this to be different, something that people drive by and say, I want to go there. I also want people to say, boy, these guys look like they're really gung ho. That's what I'm looking for to do our landscape design and our installations.
It's a lot of pine.
Yeah. And all of these are like green giants. We already planted a bunch of them just to make sure that over on the back southwest corner, just so we could appease the neighbors a little bit, you know, tell them, at least feed them some information as to what's going on. And we put up a big berm, 4 feet, and planted all these really nice green giant arborvitaes. It looks dynamite. We've had neighbors come over from the mobile park and say, wow, this really looks cool. This is what you guys are doing, you know, yada, yada. So we've had a lot of fun with them so far, and nobody's been squawking. And I don't know if you guys have ever been on that site before, but during the day, those, you know, the steel tracks from the mining sites can be deafening when the wind is coming from that direction. It is all day long. You just crack, 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 crack from all of the stone quarries.
So the suggestion was made that I'd like to suggest that you table it till the December meeting. We were coming back for the December meeting anyways. Have our planner take a look at our code, see how this might work in a nursery form or retail, and bring that back and see if with the sign and the major grading permit, and we can address it again in December.
Sure. So there was some questions we had on like the paving and such.
We
Is
can
it even
go
worth
through that.
taking out right now, or could that be included?
I would like to know just so that he could have guidance on how to finalize the plan so that when you see it in December is like really much up.
Okay. So you want to go through the questions that you need answers on real quick?
What's the reason for not wanting to pave it? Other cost.
None.
Okay.
No, I definitely would love to have it paved. We're gonna start by paving the bottoms of the bins. It keeps dust down and allows us to scoop up stuff. But, you know, first things first, we want to get the nursery up and running, get that real pretty, and then we definitely want to do all of our streetscapes, all of our surrounding evergreens, and put up the fence. You won't even be able to see into that contractor check. I guarantee that. So that would be the next phase. I don't want to sit up here and say that, you know, we're going to be paving all of that within the next couple of years. It's just not going to happen. But I definitely can say that the rest of it. Okay. So the contractor's yard as it has been used as a storage facility for recreational vehicles and some other stuff over the years, it's been accurate to the state.
Yeah, and the reason for that is it's been there since
Absolutely. Yeah,
forever.
right.
But
You know, obviously, if that's a sticking point and, you know, we have to come up with some additional funds to pay the contractor's yard, you know, we can, you know, talk about that and make things happen. Going backwards is, you know, obviously the worst option.
how's everybody? Mark, how do you feel about that?
I think I'm okay with not paving that south end, but I think I'd do better with a definite time frame for when it would be paved, as opposed to just an open-ended deal. And the reason for that is, I guess, that just judging from the elevations that were in the packet here, looks to me like it's going to be difficult to see much of that anyway. And I think the amount of traffic over there, he's already pretty much said the amount of traffic from their employees is going to be minimal because they go directly to their job sites most of the time. And you know, the small bins for aggregate retail I don't know that that's really a contractor's yard either. I kind of agree with the fact that it's more retail space than contractor yard. And as long as those bins are paved on the bottom and holds down the dust and stuff from that, I don't think, you know, 1 or 2 vehicles in or out of there a day to maybe get some aggregate or whatever. I don't see that being a problem for any of the surrounding areas. So I'd be okay with that as long as we put a definite, a little bit more definite time frame on when it's going to get paved.
Jane?
I agree with Mark that I think, as far as I'm concerned, the whole thing looks very, very nice. But I would like to see a time frame put on as far as paving is concerned, whether it's 5 years or whatever the group feels is adequate. But something should be put on so that it's followed through.
Mr. Howard, would you go for 2 years? In terms of maybe that contract yard?
From the time we close, yeah.
My only other comment is I've never seen shooters look better. No, I mean, and I.
All right, so we're,
Planning Commission, Chad pointed out, it's more, your operation is more retail, obviously. And the concept that you're getting into is very interesting and you're proud of it, training, et cetera.
I think it's gonna be really cool.
May I ask one, Kathy?
yes,
The only concern I had or question in terms of, because Town Line Road during rush hour times or when Sussex Hamilton is letting out the high school, not more than a mile south of your operation. Is the county going to have any problems as people come in, coming out of that entrance and wanting to turn north?
Yeah, turn left. I do not know. The site plan of operation has gone to the county, at least, the packet has gone there without signature. I'm asking for some responses before I supply them with the signed document. So to answer your question, I don't know how they work.
All right, that's it. Well, we'll wait and see, we'll see what happens.
all right.
I just want to state, be careful what you're doing over there. You do not have a current plan of operation right now. And I see your equipment there, and I see material in them bins. And bins are new.
Yes,
I know this site very well. Be careful what you're doing over there.
I will. Yeah, thank you. And just comment on that, we have,
I don't need a response.
got it.
So is the board in agreement that 2 years would work if that's what was written into the plan? Because
Yes.
that's what I heard,
I suggested that.
and he was okay with that.
Yeah.
You get that? What's your next question, Rachel?
The other question would be just the general amount of landscaping and screening. Do you feel like what he's proposing is adequate?
I definitely-
If the renderings are any example, it's actually more than one could anticipate.
That is what-
Yeah, bingo.
Okay.
So,
Seasonal shade structure?
Yeah, I guess my recommendation would be that he either reduce the size or somehow relocate it so that it could meet that 50-foot setback. Can you take another look at that? You know,
And it's 50 feet from the right of way, or is it 50 feet from the base setback?
from the base setback line, so I think you'll have some room there. I mean, of course, it's not as bad as it sounds, then, but
Go back.
I don't have the exact, putting it on that.
Okay.
So what are,
And so even if that is temporary, it's seasonal, it's something that comes down in the winter time, we still need that to be.
Yeah, I felt like I couldn't wiggle, at least at the staff level, with the definition of structure and the zoning code is very robust. And I think it covers it.
How far off are they?
yeah.
You can look at, I don't know, if you'll,
It was on a plan I received kind of late, so I didn't get a chance to scale them, so.
if you look at the back page of,
You talking a couple feet, or you were talking, because what I'm seeing here, it looks like it might only be a few feet.
Less than 30 feet down from the lot line, but I know you have base setback line is a different line. So 32, I don't have a clear map with the base setback line on it, so that makes it hard for me to measure.
30 foot, the green space is from the right of way, correct?
Yes,
So you can see in LS1 of this big packet that I handed out, this is on the third to last page. LS1, you can see that shade structure.
almost like transparent, right? You can see your
Yep.
display area a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you see a box there. And so you can see that dash, heavy dash line that runs through the east side of that shade structure. That's 30 feet from the right of way. So if this is from the base setback line, we should be good to go.
I think you could add the base setback line somewhere on the site plan, I think that would help visually clarify.
I guess, once you get through that, I'll.
Yeah.
Maybe a technical thing.
Mhm.
Instead of us guessing.
Do you have any other questions, Rachel?
Parking stalls.
It might not be as big a deal, yeah, so parking stalls and also just the amount of equipment stored in that stuff in. Do you have any? Are you satisfied? with-
Equipment wise, it sounds like there's not gonna be much there.
Yeah,
But this, so parking stalls, like,
there's a big gap there, so, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 22 still proposed, at least in that main lot as you come in, that's paved. But I think that includes the employee parking and the stuff, and
That doesn't include the employee parking itself.
oh, it does not.
And there's 5 spaces in the back behind the, behind Shearer's too.
So the 22 is just in the paved area,
Correct.
we'll call it the retail area.
That's right. Yep.
what could you-
And then there's plenty of room back there if we need to add more spaces. That goes without saying.
And if you want to just update that the 22 is in the paved area and then whatever additional for
but
employees.
we're requiring 71. What? I guess this isn't the first time we've been way off on this. What are we basing those 71 on?
Sorry, that's based on,
Based on pine trees, I can understand it. but-
that's a good question, so that is based on the retail business standard. So that's when I used that would be 3 spaces per 100 square feet of floor space. And looking at floor space, I think I measured the barn and also the checkout building in the north end of the display yard. I was not counting the greenhouse or the shed that would be up in the northwest corner, because at the time those weren't shown on the plan.
I mean, guys, could you guys just get together, figure out what kind of traffic you're anticipating on the site? And then, I mean, this parking stalls is one that in any municipality, I think should be a little more objective instead of what happens. I mean, I have a map of sort of Sussex and I have the biggest parking lot in the area, put it in a big legally parking lot, for God's sakes. We have 4 people in there at a crack. But, so I mean, I think there's something that makes sense, something that don't, bring in something that makes sense. I think board's good with that.
Yes.
Yes.
And I don't think we got to go.
Sound good,
Still
Mark?
getting to know your-
Yep.
Anything else, Rachel?
Nope, that was it.
So,
Motion to table?
everybody, anything else anyone wants to add before we go to that? Someone want to make a motion to table?
So
For a second?
I'll second.
Table and seconded, no discussion. At this point, all in favor of the table?
Aye.
Bye.
I,
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item D is the Aubrey accessory structure.
All right, Mr. Aubrey is the applicant. You here? Okay. He is requesting a detached accessory structure of 76 square feet. The property is 44.6 acres in size. It's mostly zoned A10. The building is within the A10 zoning and will be used for agricultural use. The building meets all property line setbacks and height restrictions as in our zoning. The property has a single-family home on it and 3 existing detached accessory structures equal to 3,744 square feet. In short, the building meets all requirements for zoning area in which it is proposed, with the following exception. Per our code, it states that where more than 2 accessory buildings of any size are proposed on any lot, the Town Plan Commission shall review the structures in light of the provisions in section 3 sub C and 3A, and render a finding to allow or disapprove of the proposed structure. It's in Brian's opinion to approve the proposed structure with the stipulation that, and it should be a deed restriction for agricultural use only, and should be attached to the new structure and recorded in the Register of Deeds. The applicant has also indicated he's willing to remove one of the smaller existing buildings, approximately 14 feet by 24 feet, if the board choose, or the commission chooses.
So he's over by,
He's over right now, because he's only allowed 2. He already has 3 with that small building.
Yeah.
And he's requesting a 4th or a 3rd if you require him to take down the 14 by 24. He is within his size limit, his area, and it's just specifically the number of accessory buildings. Now, when it came to my desk, my concern was that we do have the code that says the number of accessory buildings, and it doesn't exempt our agricultural areas. So we brought it to you to request the review and see if you're okay with this being put on this agricultural lot, another barn. My request with the deed restriction was for, he states that he's going to use it to put his tractors and equipment in to get it off the property and sitting outside. And I'd like to do a deed restriction so then we know that in the future, if he sells the property, that somebody's not running a business out of it or using it for rental storage units or anything like that. So if we put that on there, it's for agricultural purposes. A person that would buy the property would have to come back to you and ask to have that lifted. So we're asking for approval. Your choice would be if the barn would, if you'd like the smaller one removed or not, or if you want to stay in compliance and only allow him his 2 buildings.
yeah,
Not overly familiar with this area or the property.
So this is,
I don't know. Chris, yeah, is there any neighbors around or any, that's my only concern. You put up a bunch of buildings and I don't have a problem with it. I just don't want a neighbor saying, hey, he has 3 sheds already and you let him put up a 4th one.
Sure.
Do you have, is there
All of the
coverage?
sheds in the barns that were there were well before this subdivision was. So anybody that moved in there is already accustomed to and used to seeing the barn.
can you just state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris Aubrey, W245-104837 Swan Road.
Thank
Yeah, so again, it was an older barn, that we've lost storage in it because it's not structurally sound. However, we've made it safe and made it nice again to keep it.
Okay.
So I don't have storage in there. The little 14 by 24 foot accessory is, only got a 5-foot door into it. I think they put sheep or whatever it was in there at some point in time. And again, so it's not usable storage. There is a nice pole shed that's currently there. It's just small and it, put 2 tractors and a piece of equipment in there and I don't have room for anything else. So all my equipment currently sits outside and for safety and just, it's just nice to keep it
I
inside.
understand.
So, there is the,
Is there a tree
Oak
line or
subdivision.
anything? Is it to the south?
Yeah, there's a tree line that separates, just to the south of me, the neighbor directly to the south. As I believe a 1 acre outline in between us, that's really what it is.
Oh,
And then the Oak subdivision does have a fence line.
so this is by no means.
Well, just the
I guess I
building.
could look it up on Google Earth.
I would be
just the
closer,
building.
there is one home in the Oak subdivision that has a lot that would abut, my property where, I think our shed is a couple hundred feet from their home, or the back of the shed would be, once it's built, but there's a berm in between us, there's pine trees planted on top of it, there's a fence line that's directly behind that that's full of brush and plantings as well, so it's fairly well screened. Okay.
Can you get to the GIS? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I think all questions have been answered there. I'm not opposed to not keeping all the present buildings. And you're okay, Mr. Humphrey, with, the question of, in case of, you were to sell the property, that, possible purchasers would understand zoning would restrict what could be done with the building. And
Yeah.
I pointed out by our
100% comfortable with that, and we hope that that was the case.
No further questions.
Okay,
No, I agree with Ed. No further questions on it, although I do think that smaller barn can come down.
I'm not familiar with it.
Mark,
No, no questions.
how about the smaller structure?
I guess I'd rather not increase the number of buildings if we don't have to, but if there's a compelling reason not to take that down, I guess I'd be willing to listen to it.
Yes, what is considered a,
You mind coming up to the mic?
you know, I've seen, I think in the ordinance is like it's like a garden shed. I mean, is it really considered a structure? I mean, it's not, you know, I mean, it's 14 by 24 foot, but it's,
Does it have walls, a roof, and a floor?
I suppose it does, but
It's a structure.
so I didn't know if it could be, like I said, a garden shed or something.
If it's not on wheels, it's a structure.
Okay.
A garden, Chris, a garden shed would be considered a structure.
Oh, garden shed. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been there since the property.
If you could,
Sorry, it's just been there, and I
Mark
think it fits with the farm and the look, but again, I can take it down, I don't think it hurts anything, however, if that's the case, then fine, it's not too big of a deal, I mean, we just put wood and stuff in it right now, so.
see where we're at is that you're already not compliant.
Understood.
So we're making it, and we're trying to not make things worse.
Yep.
So if you take the one down and we're allowing you to build this other building, I think that's pretty reasonable. So, how do you feel, Mark? I mean, knowing that you just throwing wood in it right now,
I have a waterway again, you know, for the farm and then wood, yeah.
and the wagon can go in the big one then, I'm assuming.
Hopefully, yeah, that's the should have adequate space to store everything.
Does that change your opinion, Mark?
I'm not, I'll go with the rest of the commission because I don't feel strongly either way. My slight preference would be to stick to 3 structures instead of adding a 4th one, but if he's building this, if he wants this new building to get stuff out of the elements, it doesn't make a lot of sense to start making him put more stuff back in the elements.
Where were you at, Chad?
I'm on the fence.
Okay, to jump off the fence, are you jumping to the left or the right?
Well, I understand that we'd like to keep it at 3 structures. I mean, would that be a game changer or are you?
No, I mean, I'd say the city go, it's a backdrop, you know, for our butterfly gardens, and it just, like you said, for the property, it's more sentimental than anything, it's not hurting anything in my opinion, but I do understand that I'm already not conforming. I get that if that's what we need, it's just, you know, the old farms, it just fits to me on the property, but if I have to take it down, that's fine. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and if I can help out, and that's what it takes to get the storage, that's more important to me than, you know, than the shed.
I can't.
What year was it?
I can't hear it now.
Bill, my grandfather.
I think the barn was 1906, and that building I know was probably afterwards. Or add on
Sure.
it, so I'm sure that was an add-on sometime in the 50s.
I just don't want to have other people coming down around.
That's-
I'll be outvoted anyway, so.
I'd like the butterflies.
They can stay, the
Um,
butterflies.
Yeah. It's, we have codes, we gotta stick to them. We're already not, I mean, this year already, like I said, not compliance already, so we prefer, I would prefer you not go further out of compliance. If it's, and you're gonna have room to store everything, it's not like we're gonna be putting stuff outside then, you're not gonna defeat the purpose of this.
I
Right?
hope not.
Okay. My preference at that point would be then to only have 3 accessory structures.
Okay. Motion?
That's it, everybody? Everybody good? We're looking for a motion on the side. I'll make the motion to approve the Aubrey accessory structure. Stipulation with all comments tonight, but that the property stick to the 3 outbuildings, I believe. Does that match?
Sounds good.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
What about also that it be used for agricultural purposes only, that that's.
I would include that in the deed restriction. If I
Okay.
could. Second, okay with that?
Yes.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can take that down in spring, or is there a time limit on it, or it's kind of neat stuff that's in the store, place, we didn't talk about time limit on it, but
We could talk to Brian.
talk to Brian on it,
Yeah.
okay. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7 is the plan report.
So, planner. Very busy. There's some good things in the works here. Oh, apologize. We've got some good things in the works, have some tasks that are ongoing. Just a quick report on that. So, you'll soon see new conditional use section language for your ordinance proposed. Just going to go to the town attorney for review. I think you might see that in December. Pending, working that with Kathy. We do have some data on 24-hour convenience stores. I know that in the past that was discussed. Might just include that in the next staff report in some memo format. It's not, we don't have anything that would currently apply to, but I think we can ask for more information on that. We'll have that coming soon. We're working with the new administrator Kathy on town application forms and checklists. So we're going to work to just make sure those are updated and working for staff to help us with intake on these applications and make sure everything's complete and easier to process. We do have another site plan of operation amendment for Jeff Billinger for the self-storage site on Lake 5 Road. And I think it's Marine Drive, if I remember correctly. You'll see that in December as well. That also requires a conditional use permit amendment. So just had one building approved in the past. I think a total of 7 on site. One of them never got built. He's proposing that building in a different location. So it's a relatively minor amendment to the current site plan.
Yeah, Rachel, he stopped in this week and said he's just not sure. He might have to push it to the next month.
Okay.
So, but you might not see it in December. I just wanted to let
Yeah,
you know.
but Mary's custom storage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
wonder where he's gonna put that building. That's like kind of getting kind of property.
I believe it was approved. He was just moving it. It was approved where originally he hasn't built it yet and he's just going to move it over some, but
Yeah, one bigger building, I think, for-
Yeah, there's some right of way, he used to be right of way, he obtained that land, so it's like, you got some more land to work with.
Well, it's probably no way. Probably. Well, maintained.
You'll see it soon. Garrett Holmes, we just had another meeting with them today, a follow-up of a planner appointment for a couple of potential subdivisions in the works.
Can-
In association with that would be comprehensive plan amendments for 2 different locations on the town, one near Lindale Road and another up on North Road. This would be, I guess, timed in conjunction with other text amendments to the comprehensive plan that the town needs to make for other reasons.
Mhm.
So we'll be seeing that soon as well. I think teeing that up for a public hearing in January, right, Kathy?
right. So if I can say something about the property on, that he's looking at developing on Q and North Road. He has brought it from down, he has met with residents and they've been working with them. They've gotten to the point where they brought it down to 19 instead of the 20, what was it, 28? 29, they brought it down to 19, got the sizes bigger, has more outlots and green space. It's taking care of drainage, has made the person that has drainage issues happy with that situation, is working with, seems to be really working with the people in the area that had concerns. He has contacted every person that talked at the last hearing to make some kind of a contact with them. And so he's really doing a good job of getting out there and talking to the residents, showing them what he's proposing, asking them what their concerns were, and trying to address them before he comes for a public hearing. So that's where we're at with that one. Second one,
Yeah, the second one down on Lindale Road. that one, we're not, I think that one's not as far along as far as neighbor outreach, but it doesn't have a history of controversy either. Location that I know of.
Yeah, and there's not too many homes around it and,
What does our future land use plan say?
Because the rural homes designation, both of these sites, I think they have the exact same designation, the rural density for the 5 acres. They're proposing more like,
R2.
yeah.
So what is the, I mean, what is the future land use plan, just so we don't run into that again?
Yeah, so that one is
That-
rural density, they would be proposing more of a suburban density.
So it's a land use amendment on both of them.
So this is the same issue we ran into up on Q again.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Economics was driving that issue.
Mhm.
Pure and
But with
simple.
fewer lots as well, he did substantially reduce the lots.
I'm not opposed, it just, this is where we got, things got screwed up in 2009 or 10. The county came in and did this, I mean, there's more dead ends there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is obvious that this was intended to be continued again. I didn't even know they were bringing this until today, and
That's why we thought the planner reports are really good to get you an idea of what's been on the table, who's been coming in and talking a little bit. So you're not blindsided when you see something, an application that comes in and you're like, oh, I didn't even
this is
think
great,
about that.
yeah, I can see I can see the complaints coming again.
Yeah.
On
Well,
this.
I'm hoping
And this
that
is
their contacts, their outreach that they're doing will help with that.
It sounded like it went surprisingly well so far.
It-
so
yeah.
Possible that
3 of the people that,
I'm talking about the one in my Lindale.
oh, Lindale, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one up on Q. That'll be, I hope they work it out.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to go through that again.
maybe good to phone up on the history of that, just how the land use map has changed, because I don't know that I'm fully up on that.
Well,
Just so we're-
Jane and I might be the only 2 left that have the old one. The green book that shows, I mean, that book actually, even
Yeah.
on Q and down, I'm sure on Lindale, actually showed that we intended for higher density there, and the county came in and changed.
And change it.
So it's the same
Yeah.
case in both.
I haven't looked at the one in Lindale, I have the book, I have to look, but yeah, and up on Q, it was R2.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, it was allowed down to 30,000 square foot lots without sewer.
And they said based on current use, we're gonna change the map.
They zoned it to current use, yeah. Future land use to current use, which was
Mhm.
like, I don't even know why we bothered all the time we did to do all that, when that's all they did.
Mhm.
There's a lot of work in that.
Yeah, yes, there was a lot of work in that, but yet the county came in on the final say and there was
Yeah,
nothing we
what you're
could do
gonna do.
about it. You know, it was just what they said, and that was it.
And we did it, yeah, okay.
Hopefully that's, where those are going, we have also in the hopper a request, this was mentioned, I think, several months back, this guy would approach the town in the spring, Tim Bond has land right bordering the village of Merton, right on the Bug Line Trail and Lake Farm Road. And Bark River runs through it, I mean, it's a very interesting site, they're looking to have just one home right now. But then they want to take access on the road that's in the village. They have frontage in the village, they do have frontage in the town, we're not sure if they're gonna do a land division yet, but they do want to move forward with something. You'll see something soon for that, but it might be a joint plan committee meeting. Will be a joint plan committee meeting once they submit.
The concern is with the village doesn't want to allow them just to put a driveway off of the cul-de-sac because the road is supposed to go through this property and come into the property. So they don't want since they have no road frontage, they actually have no real frontage on the road. They'd be pulling a driveway like we just did for the Brandt Getz property,
Yeah.
a driveway to a cul-de-sac and not bringing the road in. They aren't interested in doing that. They'd like to see what the town is willing to do. He does have a driveway coming off of Lake 5 already. But they are concerned a little bit about the speed of Lake 5 and and because it's kind of a hidden driveway. That they're concerned about that with pulling in and out of the driveway.
I'd be very surprised if the county would allow permanent roads not on Lake 5. That's an old dirt road,
Mhm.
literally. And it's just north of the Bark River.
Right.
And at the base of the hill.
Right.
I maybe should take myself out of this one, because I know this from
Okay.
one of the people I work with.
Okay, so the question would be if we have them go right to the county and see what the county is going to bring forward and if what they're going to allow them to do, and then we'll bring it back to the town. Because if the county has the ability, it's all shoreline ordinance, the whole property. And so we're gonna have to do what the county wants to do in shoreline ordinance. I mean, they're gonna ask us your opinion, but by rights, it's their ordinance that has to be followed. So if they're going to say that they would prefer it at the village, then we can work with the village to either have the petitioner bring in the road at least to the edge of the property. So if the road in the future moves forward, the driveway wouldn't be coming into the village. It would actually, the road would be meeting at the property line. Right now, it doesn't. The cul-de-sac, you'd have to go across village property to get to the cul-de-sac. And it doesn't work. It's the future road is on the map, but it's not there. The cul-de-sac didn't go to the property edge, just like it happened to Getz. So I guess we need to make sure that all our cul-de-sacs get to the end of the parcel. So I think that might be our best bet, is to have the petitioner go to the county, see what the county is going to require before we bring it to the town and start discussing it here, and then the county decides to do whatever we do anyway, so. But it's good to know that it's out there and we've been discussing it with them.
So another one for the books in 2020. Also, the
Great
quick
year.
trip on Highway 2, you're likely to see that soon. I think they have indicated that they want to bring revised plans back. I haven't seen plans yet or
I
any
haven't either.
date certain, but just know that that's in the works.
I'm amazed.
Yeah.
They're building that unit right down on 164 and Liston Road.
Yeah, something happened. I can't hear anymore.
Uh-oh.
I was just making a comment, nothing.
Can you hear?
now, Mark?
Whoever was talking before, is it Kathy in red?
Mark, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, yep, sorry, I didn't have my mic on. I
No,
apologize.
I hear you great. I don't hear everybody else right. Something happened. Everybody else is kind of weak now, but go on.
Okay,
We're past the point I got to vote, so.
All right, might be getting mumbling, sorry about that. The other thing, Quarry Corners Truck Wash, so the owner of that property has indicated they want to come forward with that proposal, so I think they're working through the various design standards for that site. I took another look back at the last joint plan committee meeting for that, and I know that staff was directed to work with them on conditional use standards, so I'm trying to work that into the conditional use ordinance language as well to address truck washes. It's all kind of connecting here, but they should be coming soon with something. They're aware of the landscaping standards, but they may be looking for more clarification from us on that as well. Israel Taylor, we talked about that. That's an ongoing violation. Sorry to mention it, Dane. I have no updates on that, unfortunately.
so as she mentioned, they submitted an application, but no drainage plan. They've been notified that they need to comply. Brian has been working, trying to get Israel Taylor to comply. When he comes back, we'll discuss what the next step is.
Where's that located?
On Lisbon Road.
Lisbon Road, right across. from
It's the
Jeffers.
farmhouse that's connected with Heritage Ridge. It's
Okay.
Dorn's farmhouse.
Orange, yeah.
Got it.
And he's got a berm.
Yep.
With glorious weeds.
Now dead weed.
That's all I have for planner report, unless you have any questions. or-
Great news, Rachel.
Anybody else have anything else?
I do not.
All right, well, next item is adjournment.
So move.
I'll
Make a
second
motion
it.
to adjourn.
10 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're out at 7:45. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Hey, take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Thank you.
Have a good
Stay safe.
Thanksgiving.
You too.
Yeah.
Everybody else too.